Okay, welcome everyone to our online design kit workshop, the IDEO Acumen workshop. And we can just take about 2 minutes to connect with ourselves, just to relax. It's been a bit of anxiety for trying to get this technology to work. And if we just take a minute, just close our eyes and breathe deeply. Just connect with yourself and take a couple long, deep breaths. Just notice the sensations, drop what's going on in the outside world, and just get connected to our own feelings, our own center. Just breathing deeply. Just take a moment of silence. Okay, and taking another long, deep breath and coming back to the group. So this is, let's see, we have here February 20th, and this is our part one of two parts of our workshops. This workshop is going to go for about perhaps 2.5 hours. It might be a little bit less, just depending on how much research we do in the group. And I think we're ready to start. It'll be Kevin will be leading the steps, so we can turn it over to you, Kevin. And I'll be doing the slideshow here.
Fair enough. So you're going to be my Vanna White?
That's me.
Wonderful. All right, yeah, so in case you all are wondering, this is an IDEO, this is IDEO's property, but it's not an IDEO sponsored workshop. We're presenting this under a Creative Commons license. And I'm certainly here to learn, hopefully as much as everyone else, and I'm thrilled to be working with you all today and also next week on this Introduction to Human-Centered Design. Go ahead to the next slide. There you go. Fabulous. So you can see what the purpose of the workshop is. I'll get to the introductions just in a moment, but I am a teacher immersed in this currently with my middle school students and getting them to think about human-centered design. That's a big part of what we're doing. And hopefully the goal resonates with everybody. Next slide. So just take a quick scan through here. I'm not going to read the slides. You can see what's there as far as what the objectives are. Are we going to make these available to folks after the fact?
Yeah, they can all be available. You can download them. We'll give you a link to the full slide deck.
Right, because this is really good. It's really good stuff, and we're grateful to IDEO and Design Kit for making it possible. But you can basically see what we're going to be doing. We're providing an overview, getting some hands-on practice. We're going to be using real-world interviews, hopefully, to inform our exploration. Do some brainstorming as a team with partners online as well as with facilitators. Building and testing ideas. You can't prototype what we're doing. There's not going to be any craft sticks and hot glue guns involved with this one, but there'll still be plenty of prototyping involved. And then finally, just working on building our own human-centered skills. Did anybody have any questions about that so far? You can just type in the chat or just raise your mic and start talking. We take questions throughout, right, Edwin? Does that seem reasonable?
Yep, at any time. We encourage them.
Okay. All right, so what will you not learn? Yeah, obviously this is an accelerated process. It was intended to be a single day, but we thought we would take it easy on everyone and not have you sit in front of your computer for 8 hours. So we decided to break it in what we thought was a logical spot to accelerate the process, to give you an overview. Oh, and here's the part about the not an IDEO workshop. I knew I saw that somewhere. It won't make you an expert, but it will certainly give you a grounding, and that's why I'm here, to strengthen my own knowledge and become a better learner in my classroom. Ooh, did I hear something from Gabby? We got 3 Gabbies now. Maybe the third one's a charm. Questions so far? We good? Thumbs up? awesome. Next slide. Okay, so who's in the room? So I'm going to go first because I got the mic, and I'll flip it over to Edwin. Or Edwin, do you want to go first?
You can go first. Okay, I'll go first. Let me get a screen share going here of our mural.
Thank you.
So I'm Edwin Rutsch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and for about the past 8 years, I've been really focused on empathy. How do we create a more empathic culture? I've got a website, cultureofempathy.com, which is the largest resource on the internet for empathy-related material. Done all kinds of projects, design projects around empathy, and had this empathy tent that we set up at at the UC Berkeley, on the UC Berkeley campus, and have also set it up in downtown Berkeley. Lead workshops, empathy circle, and other empathy-related workshops. And my intention for this workshop is I wanted to create an online empathy training curriculum, sort of an empathy training MOOC. So I'm gathering information, insights, building teams to create that MOOC, and this is actually part of it. The information we generate here in this group will possibly go into the design of that workshop. So I'm really excited to be here and to do this workshop together with you. That's it. And you're muted, Kevin.
All right. Oh.
I heard myself.
Oh, we heard you too.
Yeah.
There we go. Is that Gabby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo.
If you could see my setup right now, guys.
Well, congratulations. Thanks for getting it all worked out. That's wonderful. Why don't you go ahead with your intro since you're here?
Oops.
All right. I'll introduce myself really quickly. I am the girl with the terrible connection. I'm Gabby. I'm Costa Rican. I'm originally a journalist, but last year I started working with design thinking with the group at Stanford University, and then tackling the refugee crisis in the Middle East. Basically, if there's one thing that working with refugees taught me is that we're nothing without empathy, and there's no progress in any social endeavor we might have without that. So I'm here just hoping I can learn from each and every one of you and share my 2 cents.
Okay, Edwin, am I up?
You're up.
Fabulous. Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Jarrett. I teach in a middle school in New Jersey, where over the summer we built a pretty amazing makerspace in an old computer lab, and working currently with students in grades 5, 6, 7, and 8 on a design thinking curriculum that I'm building myself. It's gone pretty well so far, so obviously we've overlooked something. We've been blogging the entire process. I have a personal blog as well as I write for Edutopia every month, and one of my reflections is due today, actually. I need to get started on that. We're very excited about design thinking in my district, and we think because of the basis on empathy that it has enormous implications for the culture of the school, far beyond what we do in the classroom or what we create. So my experience with design thinking is about a year, I would say, at the most. I've been fallen down the rabbit hole when I started planning for the new space and the new curriculum, and I really consider myself at the base of the mountain, but I'm learning a lot and meeting a lot of awesome people like yourselves, and look forward to sharing what I've learned and also learning with you as well.
Shall we just go across the here would be Lulu, would be next.
Okay. My name is Luisa, but friends call me Lulu because it's a lot easier. And I graduated from architecture. I've been part of an NGO where we worked with participatory urbanism and architecture, which means starting with human-centered design and kind of building up, and then really literally building. As you can see in the pictures, we worked with the less advantaged communities, which was really interesting. But we encountered conflicts in working with people. I encountered conflicts in working with kids also. I worked in some theater workshops with disadvantaged kids and kids with special needs. And my interest is to see how we can make that inside a group or a society. We can become more willing to get to know what others need and how we could build paths of understanding between us. So how everyday life works with empathy and how creative processes work with empathy. This is what I'm interested in. And it's nice to meet you guys and be here.
Nice to see you here as well. So the next is Yvonne.
Yeah, sorry, I apologize. I didn't do a good job putting my pictures there. I kind of started and then just forgot to end that. So you will not see pictures of what I do. I just tried to put some pictures of who I am. I'm a fun person, and I love minions and things like that. And I just put an avatar of myself. I don't know why, but okay. So why I'm here? I am the human side of the corporate world, so very exciting and refreshing for me to hear other people that are out there working in social causes, and that makes me feel excited. But at the same time, I feel, oh, I am in a computer all day working in an office, and I work in a bank, so like that's not friendly. So my mission is to save the employees of at least of the bank where I work, and try to make their experience a little bit more human. In my day-to-day, there are a bunch of executives behind their computers just putting a lot of ideas in a PowerPoint or an Excel, and they don't even consider the impact that has in the frontline employees. So my idea is incorporating this design thinking into the way we plan and the way we execute our strategies in the corporate world. I think that would add a lot of value. So I'm going to see and try to shake a little bit the corporate world, or at least like my boss.
Okay, thank you for that. And next, Sveta.
Yes, hi. My name is Sveta Dave Chakravarti, and I think I'll turn off the video. I don't like that. I am, I guess, director of what is known as the Ferdinand Center, Education for Social Justice. I work with my team in India, though I'm based out of New Jersey. And what we are trying to do is create high-quality curriculum around social justice. So for teachers and for students, we work a lot with teacher educators. In various contexts, the three contexts that we are focusing on, and all of our work is towards creating curriculum that can be uploaded online, not MOOCs, but small courses that we will facilitate from our center in Delhi. We hope to trigger teams of educators, prepared teams of educators across the country to be able to deliver that curriculum, because really in India it has to be thought through with each set of educators to some extent, at least. The contexts are so diverse. So our three contexts are, we work in a university in Delhi, the Ambedkar University Delhi, which is kind of a progressive liberal arts kind of university that does not cater only to the elite. we work with the Delhi government school system, which is lots of state schools, and their training agency. And we work with an organization which has set up homes, residential facilities for former street children. And I was one of the founding members of that in 2005. So it's all kind of part of my work. And the goal is social justice. And and the focus with this education initiative is we're looking at how inequality and indifference is increasing to inequality and injustice in Indian society. People are moving a lot further right. The middle class is moving a lot further right. And we really think the change has to come in the schools first. And if it is to come in the schools, it has to come in the teachers. And before that, in the teacher educators. So it's about changing hearts and minds. And I think empathy is going to be the first piece of that. I think that's enough. We do have a website that has gone up yesterday. It's called theferdinandcenter.org, and we would love to hear a critique of it, a gentle critique. But that's about it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, there we go. Harsh?
Yeah, hi, I'm Harsh. I am Sweta's brother, actually, and we've been looking at design thinking for the last year or so as a very interesting way to go about designing systems. I have been a consultant for several years in the US, working pretty much in corporate environments that are homogeneous, much more homogeneous than we find today. And I've been moving more and more towards India, where I need to earn my keep, but also I want to work with Sweta on some of the efforts that she's been leading. And what I find is, since I graduated 30 years ago from college, there's been a lot of change in the classroom. And I'm teaching in a business school, part-time, and very little at the moment, but I find the class composition is quite diverse, and there really is a need for empathy among students who themselves are striving very hard to improve their own lot and get the best opportunities they can get. But I think empathy is going to be key as they move forward, because they're going to see all sorts of diversity in the environment that they move into. So design thinking and your efforts with empathy are both of great interest.
Okay, great. A lot of interest in empathy. That's really excited about that. Let me get there. Okay.
Are we pressing on, Edwin? Was that our last intro?
Yeah, I think there we go. The agenda.
Okay, fabulous. Yeah, that's the one we're looking for. Fabulous. So this is just a rough structure of what the course is going to look like. We'll start with a discussion of what is human-centered design, which I imagine all of us could take a stab at identifying right now if we tried. We'll be talking about the inspiration phase, where we're going to talk about your own design challenge around the question that we have, which is how might we encourage, develop empathy in our learners, essentially. We'll get into the ideation stage, where we look at ways where that'll get done, and then we'll implement and debrief, see how our ideas worked out. There's obviously a lot of steps in between here, and again, I don't want to read PowerPoint slides because that's evil, but you can see what we're up to. Questions or anything anybody can ask, or we can just power on. Fabulous. Yeah, so take questions throughout, of course, and there will be lots of risk-taking as we go through the challenges, I'm sure. Okay, so what is human-centered design? What do you think, Edwin? Should we ask everybody and then watch the video, or should we just go right to the video?
We could ask our one round. I would be curious what people think quickly.
You go first.
Okay. For me, I love human-centered design because I actually call it empathic design. It starts with empathy, that if we want to design, create, support, problem solve for anyone, that we first need to empathize with the feelings and needs and values and and problems that people have. So it starts with empathy, hearing those deeper problems, and then using a whole tool set to actually do problem solving of finding the problem, brainstorming the ideas to solve it, and then quick, rapid prototyping and testing. And the whole process, I think, is a very empathic process.
All right, we'll go flip to Gabby.
All right. Oh, it's so great to finally hear me. So the notion itself of design as a way of thinking in the sciences could be traced to Herbert Simon's 1969 book, The Sciences of the Artificial, which is quite a recommended book. And you also have it in design engineering, Robert McKim's
Gabby, sorry, we're not.
We are up to Rutsch for performance today.
Gabby, we're not really hearing your microphone. It seems to be some kind of a problem with your microphone, and we hear you maybe for a few seconds, and then it really starts breaking up. So I don't know if you have another microphone, or because it sounds like that one might have some technical problems.
Or you could just drop it in a chat for us, Gabby. I know it's harder, but it beats not hearing you at all.
I wonder if just closing two of the connections that, Gabby, you have three. I wonder if, yeah, that might help. I don't know. I don't know much about all this.
It's a good guess. So close whatever browser tabs you have open that might have that connection. That's smart.
Yeah, closing any other windows that you have open.
Exactly. Any other tabs, any other apps, anything else.
Shut everything down except the browser. Shall we continue, Kevin? Do you want to?
Yeah, let's go ahead. And there she goes. No, now we lost you totally. I think she closed the one window that would have the audio. You just drop it in the chat if you would, Gabby. That'd be great. I'll jump in with my definition of human-centered design. Since I'm a school teacher, I'm surrounded by kids every day, and no offense, but they're way more fun than adults. They're easier to talk to. They're less judgmental. They're more fun, and they listen. But kids don't really think about design very much. They just go about life and encounter things in the world and don't really think much about where they came from. And for me, what's exciting about human-centered design is enlightening them to that fact so that they can go through life and look at the world as a group of design things that they can then interact with and change to their own will and desire. So that's what's most exciting to me about design thinking and the foundation that we're using in my course and what I think human-centered design is all about, which is designing for either people or animals, because animals feature prominently actually in the work that we do with empathy in our school because they're so close to kids' lives. So that's what I got.
Okay, Gabby, you there? Well, I can read. She had posted. I wanted to share this quote. Design thinking is a human-centered approach to innovation that draws from the designer's toolkit to integrate the needs of people, the possibilities of technology, and the requirements for business success. And that's Tim Brown, CEO of IDEO.
Okay, who's next?
Well, I just thought I would say, I mean, I agree with everybody's definition, so I don't have a lot to say, but I just wanted to say that the user is at the core of the design, and therefore everything Edwin said about empathy works for me. I think that is the essence, under deeply understanding user need. But that's all I want to say about that.
Yeah, so I guess I'm up now. This is Harsh, and I really think that the difference in between design or human-centered design and what we've been doing for years, design systems, to my way of thinking, is the focus on truly understanding people's needs. You know, the subject, the people who are actually going to use the solution, truly understanding their needs and involving them in developing solutions and testing solutions. I think that's something that we didn't do enough of, or hardly at all. And that's what I see new in this human-centered design.
Okay.
So I would just, I'm just going to add a couple of things because I concur with all the things that you guys have said. I think for me, my own revelation about design thinking was being humble, because generally when you see yourself as a thinker or a designer or coming up with ideas, strategies, problem solving, whatever, you get into that stage with some sort of ego and some sort of assumptions that you previously had. So for me, it was learning that it's not only okay to be humble, like it's needed to be humble and to admit when you do not have the answers. And actually that will be the fuel that will trigger a lot of answers. So for me, that has been the journey so far.
From my point of view, it's a bit funny that it's called human-centered design, like the designer wouldn't be also a human. So it's like, I understand it as a complex process of creation where through the means of communication, through a good communication, both parts should grow and become better and become more by involving the others in themselves. So it's kind of a mutual impact that people have on each other. It's human-centered, but it's centered on all the participants to the creation process. This is, and it's mostly rooted in good communication. This is my.
Okay, thank you for that, Lulu.
Okay, so watch a video. Everybody, we're going to drop the link into chat. That's probably.
Did everybody see it already? I'd sent it. My concern would be sometimes people, if they watch, they have this window open as well as their open up another video. It might be too much for the computer. So hopefully everybody watched it. Is there anybody who didn't watch it?
Oh dear, now we're losing you, Edwin.
Oh. Are you having trouble here?
I didn't watch it, but it doesn't matter. I will see it later. Please go ahead. I'm really sorry.
I'm going to power through.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically this little Venn diagram talks about the intersections of what's desirable, what's feasible, and what's viable. And obviously we're interested in the sweet spot. We're starting. Edwin, do you have any comment on this slide?
I don't. It's finding that spot where the desirability, viability, and feasibility all come together. We're not really testing the feasibility in this workshop, but we're going to get some of the other parts.
I would also add that viability in an education context would mean how design thinking can be used in education, both as a tool to help learners understand the process, as well as what we're currently wrestling with, how it relates to the delivery of content, which is kind of a major problem for design thinking in schools, from what I'm gathering. Okay, you can hit the next slide.
mindsets?
Yep, absolutely. So I'm sure all of us are familiar with the term creative confidence, but I should say, I would hope most of us are, coined by the head of IDEO, Mr. Kelly, and a great book on the same title refers to how folks have the ability to attack problems creatively, which is fundamentally necessary for success in design thinking. Interesting they didn't put empathy first, but that's fine. Obviously, we're all comfortable with the role of empathy in the process and its importance. Embracing ambiguity, that's something that comes very naturally to me. I was in the business world prior to becoming a teacher. I was a project manager doing work in the information technology space. And one of the things I enjoyed most in life was organizing things and starting projects and running them and then completing them. And being comfortable in ambiguity prepared me well for where I am in the classroom. But my colleagues are not really comfortable with ambiguity. And I'm finding that this presents some interesting challenges when communicating with them about the value of the work we're doing. Making it is a huge part of what we do. I'm fortunate enough to have the facilities and opportunity to make lots of things in my classroom, and my students make lots of things as well. In fact, we just finished up on Friday with a week-long exercise that culminated in a room full of prototypes that were fantastic, that gave the kids a tactile opportunity to express their ideas, which they don't get during the school day typically. Learning from failure, something we all hopefully do and do well. Hopefully don't fail that often, but when you fail forward, as they say, and grow from the experience and not make the same mistake more than once. Iterate, iterate, iterate goes without saying. And finally, optimism. I've been accused of being a relentless optimist, and I would say that's very true. And so on a personal level, these mindsets are very well aligned with how I go through life. Edwin, you want to comment, or does anybody else want to chime in?
I think that was pretty good. You're a great teacher.
Thanks.
I feel very comfortable with you leading this.
Well, you're going to do some of this too. It's not all on me, sir. You set this up. All right, so anyway, back to the slide here. Again, the methodology that Design Kit and IDEO have laid out for us here, divided into 3 phases: inspiration, ideation, and implementation. And it's a great framework to attack problems in life, whether it's something that you are being tasked to do for a career or something that you want to do. That's certainly a mindset or an approach that I'm hoping to instill in my students as they go through our middle school and then on to the rest of their academic careers. So in the inspiration phase, could you go back one just for?
Sorry. Yep.
That's all right. In the inspiration phase, the key is understanding.
Uh-oh, Kevin, you there? Looks like we lost Kevin. Hopefully he'll come back shortly. Okay, let me get that. So I'll continue. So we were with the ideation phase. We have the inspiration phase where we come up with the ideas with empathy, look for problems, find a specific problem. The ideation phase, we start brainstorming on the ideas and start creating prototypes and start refining those prototypes. And on the implementation phase, we actually take those out and start testing them. So let's see, Kevin, are you there? Oh, there he is.
Okay. Yeah, sorry about that. My internet decided to go away. So I don't know.
I had given a quick ideation and implementation and gone through that, so.
Fair enough. Let's look at the cycle that this course will take. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, everything's great.
Fabulous. So what I was hoping to see here was, I'm sure you've all seen the squiggle, the famous diagram where they talk about the process. This is certainly a wavy line. It's not necessarily the squiggle that the design process follows, but obviously there are peaks and valleys. Okay, what happened here? Why did my app go away? There, let's go back. Okay, so there's peaks and valleys in the process. We are inspired and on your way to implementation, and there's a series of divergences and convergences where ideas are coming together, you're focusing in, and then you're breaking things apart to try to get to your ultimate understanding, which will lead to success in your implementation.
Another part to that I find is when people start with empathizing, gathering a lot of information, there's an opening of all kinds of ideas coming in. It can get very confusing and overwhelming. And that's in a divergent phase, and the convergent brings the full team back to a shared point, which I find very helpful, because otherwise you just get kind of lost. And then when you go into the inspiration phase of brainstorming, you got maybe hundreds of ideas, and you have all these different ideas coming up in this divergent, open-ended mindset, and then the convergence brings the whole team back together again. So it's this constant opening and closing process for design, and I find it really quite an amazing process, and how it allows for the creativity and then for everybody getting back together on the same page.
Excellent overview. Thank you, Edwin. That was terrific. Okay, so I'm not really sure what to make of this slide. There's a lot of graphics, a lot of tiles here, with some larger than others, which looks like main sections of things about, I can recognize tasks that we are going to be undertaking here in this process, which is conducting interviews, which is something actually we worked on, or we're working on currently in my class, that oddly middle schoolers are not really good at. But that's something that we're working on. Prototyping, which they are good at, physically it's certainly, turning learnings into opportunities for design, tools to use to understand people, I'm interested in that, and how to get started. Edwin, what did you make of this graphic?
This is from the Design Kit website, and they have this interface there where you can go in and you can click on any one of these tools or methods, and it brings up a whole page description of how to use it. So it's a great resource, and I think that's designkit.com is the location for that. So yeah, it's a really great.
Can you find a link for that and drop it in a chat? It'd be fun to play with that for a second, if or just have it in chat.
Oh, let's see. Okay, that's designkit.org. Let me bring that up real quick, and we'll move out of here and into the website. And here we are. That's the Design Kit website. And you go in there and you can see, they've got the video introduction. Let me present that to everyone. They have different activities like role playing. You can go through. They explain each is a little workshop of its own. So they have a suggested time, difficulty, the steps that you can go through, and it's they have all kinds of videos.
Yeah, just drop the link in the chat.
Oh, and drop the link in the chat if everybody wants to go there.
Yep. Very cool.
1 second. And there we go.
It's really quite amazing. This is amazing.
It's really good.
They have methods. Here's the videos.
Unbelievable.
And that's the screenshot that they're showing, all the different methods. You can go into any one of them, immersion. So that's it.
That's fantastic. Oh, this is huge.
So is this IDEO's, or is this somebody else who did this?
That's IDEO. It's IDEO's site.
Yeah, they've licensed all this as Creative Commons, so people are just having at it, I believe. It's fantastic.
Okay.
Fabulous. All right, so am I doing inspiration, Edwin, or are you inspiring people?
You're still inspiring us.
I'm still inspiring people?
I'll keep the show going here, the background info.
Thrilling. All right, so what's on this next slide here? Looks like an acorn. It's not an acorn. So you hit the next one there for me, Mr. Edwin.
Oh, okay. There we go. Oh.
All right, so yeah, so this is where we are we're in the inspiration stage. We're getting ready to frame the design challenge, talk about how we can increase empathy in learners, and so this is the exciting part where we say, why are we doing this, and what are we going to do, and how are we going to approach it, and so we get a million ideas and get started. So, and talk about framing, who we're going to talk to, our plan, and then get started on the research. Sounds reasonable. All right, what's the next slide say?
Okay. Inspiration.
Yep. Different ways to understand people. Okay, inspire ideas that improve lives. This is really big with us right now. In my classroom, the design challenge that we are currently undertaking involves the weather. We just had a major storm come through a couple weeks ago that affected the area in the Northeast pretty severely. And we are challenging our students to look at ways that that storm affected people, affected property, affected animals, and then design things that can ameliorate some of those problems and make life better, or just make it more fun. And so we've had kids design things accordingly, including frivolous things like giant snowman makers to devices that will raise and lower your house if there's a flood, among others. So, but it's all about improving lives, and that I think is the most powerful message that our kids are getting out of the process, and the most exciting message. Okay. Framing the design challenge. Okay. Again. Okay. Is this one you, Edwin, or?
This was going to be Gabby's. Are you there, Gabby? Or?
Oh, please tell me you guys can hear me. I had all of these notes, and it's.
We can see you. We want to turn your camera off because it's going to eat bandwidth like there's no tomorrow. Yeah.
I'm finally speaking from my cell phone. Thank God for technology. God bless it. So could you, in 30 seconds, put me up to speed of what the last conversation was about, so I can pick up where you left off?
Sure. The purpose of the previous slide was just that the goal of this process is to understand people and to make come up with ideas that improve lives, and that's what we have been doing in my classroom for the past couple of weeks, and will be for the next month, as our students are being challenged to invent things that will make people's lives better, or even animals' lives better.
And that is slide 17.
Okay. Fine. Up to speed. Thank you very much. I just want to add a quick note. I always ask, well, not always, but when I'm working with students, young students, I ask them if they had a song for design thinking, what would it be? And one of the best answers they've come up with is "It's a Beautiful Day" by U2, because they said it's beautiful to just let your mind go into the most unexplored places and to start with fresh lenses. So yeah, just a little quote for that. So framing your design challenge. Framing a design challenge is difficult, and it's very rare to get it just right on the first try. You usually go through a number of revisions, and you take multiple passes to make sure that your question drives at most, like, the ultimate impact. But it also gives you a starting place and is still broad enough to allow for a great variety of creative answers. Why? The reason we use this question, how might we, instead of how could we, for example, is if you phrase it as how could, you're starting from your physical possibilities or capabilities. And if there's one thing that we are here as human-centered designers is believers, and we're optimistic. So we know that design thinking, and we trust the process that it's going to lead us further than we ever thought we could. And we also try to avoid questions like how should we, because we don't want to pass judgment. Actually, one of the big rules of design thinking is to defer judgment, both in brainstorming and from the question itself. So With this in mind, a good recipe for a how might we question is quite elusive, but a good tip is this. The question you ask shouldn't be too broad or too narrow, and a way to check this is if you quickly brainstorm around it and you can come up with many new ideas. This means it's not too narrow, and a way to check if it is too broad is by trying to make it a very specific and as simple a question as possible. And you try always to address a specific problem. So to start, you first ask yourself, what is the problem you're trying to solve? And then take a stab at framing it as a design question. How might we, in our case, our question is how might we develop learners' empathy skills? We did a little brainstorm around that last week, and we said, well, is empathy something that is already there but needs to be worked on? Is something that needs to be taught? Is empathy something that we need to discover, or we need to lead people towards it? Or these are the kind of questions that you want to ask yourself before this. I'm not sure if you talk a little bit about the principles. I missed that part, the part of the call.
Yeah, I think we, but I'm not quite sure which principles, but.
You went through the mindsets? Did somebody
yes,
mention
we did that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So so that was our challenge for today. Let's see, we're moving into research. Do you want to do a little bit of the research since you haven't been able to present the other part, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Before that, do you want to continue to talk a little bit about the challenge itself, or the questions that we should be asking, or should we move on?
Well, the challenge was initially how do we teach empathy. Then our team kind of played around with it. We came up with about 5 or 6 different questions, and we ended up voting on it. So this was what we all had agreed on. And even then, I think, Kevin, you had mentioned that you were still not quite happy with the question, and we're still looking to play with it more. I don't know if that was you. Maybe. So I don't know what you were thinking about that, but
yeah. And I wanted to stay a little bit on the question itself, because I think it's very important before you start the field research. Since you want to get inspiration, you want to really know what is the problem you're trying to solve, and always aim at the biggest possible intangible impact. One of the things that's very, very important in field research is that we are conducting human-centered design, and as such, we always start with people. I think, I hope someone mentioned it before the mindsets, that we always start with what's desirable, because that's what really helps us stay focused on the needs and even the fears of those people we are designing for. Working with empathy is all the most important for us to try not to get carried away by the technology available, which would be the viability or the feasibility of the business and all that. We want to really start with people. And did you touch? Hello?
sorry, I didn't hear that last part.
I think we've lost her.
Oh, okay.
Come on back, Gabby. God. Don't leave us.
No, don't die on us. Okay, I'm here. I'm back. So what I wanted to say, did you talk a little bit about the method itself, that it goes into diverging and then converging and then?
Yeah, we're on slide 20, I think, design research.
Okay, mine got stuck, like mindset, so I don't know which one you're on now. But a few tips. IDEO has around 57 methods for the field research, and of course you're not going to use all of them. You're sometimes going to use methods twice and not even touch one. And a question we often get here is which methods do we choose, or where do we start? And the first tip is always start with people. And thank you for changing this slide. Yeah, where to look for inspiration. So we always start with interviews, and even here that this is an online workshop and we're doing everything online, eventually this is going to force us, fortunately, to go and talk to people and try to really understand where they're coming from and get in their shoes. Step for empathy. Good tip for the interviews is always to start broad and then narrow it down, and ask whys a lot, or why do you say that? One of the most famous challenges that Stanford University, for example, has in design thinking is redesigning the gift-giving experience. And they always recommend that you start with broad questions, such as open questions like, what's the last gift you received, or the last gift you gave? And here for us, and that we work with empathy, is a really interesting challenge, because the limits for empathy are a little blurred, and it's important to try to get that from people and not force your opinion on them, but to always keep an open mindset. Here, thank you for the slide. I think it's okay. And what we usually do for the interviews, if you're conducting individual interviews, 3 people, usually the roles are 1 main interviewer, 1 note taker, and if you're documenting this, which is also very recommended, a photographer or someone that's going to be recording for that. If you're having bigger groups, like a big focus group, then the number is not as important, but it sounds stupid, but you really don't want to intimidate people. You want to focus on the human values, and you really want to go with the most humble mindset into the interviews. So keep those roles in mind. I think that's just one of the tips I have for this. And for the inspiration phase, you also want to have ready some conversation starters and define your audience. And if you can have, for example, here you see the experts part, where to look for inspiration. There are some topics that will demand that you go to a specific person, to a specific mindset or a set of skills, like perspective of organization like banks, governments, or NGOs. You may need some expert for specific technical advice, so that's highly recommended. I'm getting a little echo. Do you guys have a little echo there? I'm hearing myself twice, and it's really disturbing.
Oh, I don't hear an echo.
Okay.
If everybody mutes, maybe that'll help.
Try to cope with it. I hear myself twice, and it's hard to concentrate with that.
Oh yeah, I know that feeling.
Anyway.
There's 2 instances.
Okay.
You have 2 instances of yourself here. Maybe there's like a feedback or.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to close one. One thing I wanted to mention, I'm going to focus with that one, is working with your extremes also. Once you define who you're designing for and which would be your audience, it seems to be very fruitful to. Oh, thank you. Just going as we go, going with emotions. To learn the extremes of your challenge. So, for example, if I'm designing an app for a cell phone, I may want to go to the extreme and talk to people who rarely use their cell phones for anything other than calling and texting, and that's it. And to talk to millennials, for example, they are basically attached to the device. And also, you want to immerse yourself in. That's which brings me to the last picture. Oh gosh, it's so hard to concentrate with this. There's just no better way to understand people that you're designing for than by immersing yourself in their lives and communities. And in the inspiration phase is basically, as we've talked about here, dedicated to hearing the voices and understanding the lives and the interactions. So if you can, just try to be as open as you can during the interviews. And a very, very curious method here that we love using is the analogous inspiration, which basically means if you have a design challenge at hand, you try to extrapolate the main characters or the main characteristics of that challenge, and the ones you identified that represented the most. And there's one very famous case of IDEO's work that they were asked to go solve a design challenge at a hospital in a surgical room, and the hospital was having problems with the efficiency in the surgical the operating room, and they asked themselves, what is the most efficient team nowadays in the world that has to work in a very little amount of time and has to be very efficient and very target oriented and really has to get things done as precisely as possible. And instead of just sticking with the problem in one lens, they went to watch the pits. Is that how it's in English? The racing cars. Because yeah, those are teams that in a matter of a fraction of seconds, they have to get every single piece in the right place, and they have to a life depends on them as well, and they have to be as efficient as possible. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is that teams are often led by their intuition to take creative leaps, and with design thinking, human-centered design, you have to allow yourself to do that. And analogous settings can help you isolate elements of an experience or interaction, even a hunch or a product, and then apply them to whatever design challenge you're working on. And in this case, it was efficiency, it was getting things as rapidly done as possible, and teamwork, and they extrapolated the isolated elements to bring them back and help them reframe the challenge itself.
Gabby, Savita has a question.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, are we going to do
Yes.
each of these separately? For example, I mean, I'm really interested in the analogous inspiration thing, but I guess we're going to have to, all of us, engage with people and experts and designing the experience. Is that the plan, or how's it going, Gabby?
I could maybe answer that. Is that we'll be doing some research here in the group, and you can also.
We talked about last week, I think we had oh, okay, go ahead.
I think we have a little bit of a lag. So we have, we're going to be doing a little bit of research in this group, and then towards the end, and then during the week, you'll have a week to do research, and you can use any of these methods and you can go out and find some experts, or just your friends or anyone, or so you can kind of use the methods that you would like to use.
I was just thinking that if we have a little bit of time.
Yeah, I want to add to build on that I guess we could go through a couple of them. In generally, from those 57 methods, all of them, and sometimes you're going to use one even 2 or 3 times during the same design thinking challenge, and you're not going to even mention the other ones. And generally, this depends on your experience as a designer, and the more you do it, the better you get in figuring out what tools work and what tools do not, and under which circumstances. At some point, it's very subjective, and you need to put on your designer hat, so to say, and make decisions. Designers would tell me usually good intuitive decisions, but it's really not easy. Honestly speaking, it's not easy in the beginning. What really helps is keeping a prototyping mindset. So you test a method also, and you reflect on what works, and that's how you iterate and eventually improve.
Okay, Gabby, looks like you're breaking up a little bit.
Oh crap.
Okay.
Is it better now?
Now it's okay. Yeah, we're going in and out a little bit there. So.
All right, I'll try to change connections again. Give me 1 second.
Okay, well I can pick up too. We're at we're on slide 23. What to consider. So this is what to consider as you learn. You want to understand the whole person and just listen and learn, and also the context. Like this is showing a researcher going into maybe a work environment or a family environment. So we want to keep that in mind too. What are people's natural settings? So if we're working on empathy, we had before, let me just show here, we could say that we're wanting to, you know, there's the average person in terms of their needs for empathy, and then at the extremes, you know, it would be like high empathy and low empathy. So the low empathy might be sociopaths and psychopaths. So we're wanting to go out, and I've seen research about going to the prisons where they do research with prisoners, and there's a high percentage of prisoners are psychopathic. So you could do analogous research and go live in a prison, for example, or I mean, in context, immersion, right? So you could go live in a highly unempathic environment. You could find an environment that is highly empathic, which could be a school, for example. There might be some schools that are very highly empathic and or a very caring environment. And so with that, let's take a look at the traditional interviewing approaches. So what we want to do here is have a little bit of involvement from our participants. And we could go around, and each will take maybe just a couple minutes to do a round robin of interviews. So for example, Savita, if you would like to take about, you know, just 2 minutes to interview Lulu about her experience with empathy. Then Lulu can interview Yvonne, and Yvonne can interview Harsh, and Harsh can interview Savita. So we just take like a minute to go all the couple minutes, I mean, a couple minutes each. So Savita, would you like to just do a little interview about our design challenge and about empathy with Lulu?
Yeah, sure. I guess. So Lulu, hi. What I would like
Hello.
to understand is, why do you think there is a need for empathy?
Well, my answer is that I don't think, I feel it. Firstly, I feel it inside of me sometimes, and I feel it inside of others, because there is conflict that happens most of the times because we have needs, and we're used to put our needs on first place, because this is what we are taught, and this is how human race evolved, if we take this into account. And I think that we are accustomed with one single way of evolution, which goes with progress and profit and everything else, but we're not accustomed to take into account the spiritual evolution of the individual and of the community.
So Lulu, I'm going to push a little bit harder. I want to know your personal experience. What can you give us in an instance in your life that you feel empathy was lacking and would have been helpful in somebody else or in yourself?
I'm gonna give you an example where I saw a lot of aggressivity related to the topic, where we wanted to create a green space, a park for kids or something like this in an abandoned place in a district, and we wanted to have a meeting with the people. But right at the beginning of the meeting, there were a few people, like, I don't know, 3 or 4 people, that came very aggressively and said that they don't need a park and they don't need a place for leisure because they need to park their cars. And we tried to facilitate a good communication between them, the community, and us as the NGO that wanted to make something there. And they actually were threatening us that they will throw rocks at us if we want to make a better place there, because park is not a better place for them. They only need more places to park their cars. And there was the rest of the community that was really interested in bettering that particular place and making a nicer space for the kids and for the community. But they had no voice because of the way these guys, the smaller amount of the community, were acting.
Okay.
This is a personal.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. Lulu, would you now interview Yvonne about her experience with empathy? Could ask her any questions that come up for you.
Yeah, I would just appreciate if, yeah, I would, I wanted to see her unmuted. Hi, Yvonne. Pleased to meet you.
Yeah.
Hi.
So, would you like to share with me what was your best experience with empathy?
That's a good question. I would say, like, I never think of empathy as a concept. I kind of do it in my day-to-day. It's hard to come up with a specific example, but I'm going to talk about my job because that's where I spend most of my day there. So in my previous job, I was working for Pepsi, and I was asked to go out on the road and go to the distribution center. So starting that point, I had to wake up at 4:30 a.m. and that was hard for me. I generally woke up later, but that was for me a way of understanding that these salespeople, they wake up every day at 4:30, they get to the distribution center at 5, and they start the day at 5, and they keep on going until 6 p.m. And they are carrying heavy stuff all day. They don't. If they need a bathroom break, they don't even have, the facility just to go in the back of their truck, right? Like they have to stop somewhere and ask permission at someone's store or something to use the bathroom. So for me, I would say that was an eye-opening moment, and that experience changed a little bit the way I see how people perform their day-to-day job. And after that experience, I became a little bit more sensitive of what I think people do, the way I think people live. It's not necessarily true. So it's not like a specific example, but I would say that after that, I tend to be, or I try to be a little bit more empathetic with other people.
Okay, that was 2 minutes. Thank you. Yvonne, if you would like to interview Harsh now.
Sure. Hi, Harsh. Can you hear me fine?
Hi, Yvonne. Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. So just a little bit of understanding. Like, what is your understanding of empathy, and do you think you are actually being empathetic in your life?
Well,
And Yvonne, you might want to mute too because we're hearing some background sounds if you're not speaking.
yeah, the way I think empathy enters into the picture for human-centered design, I guess, is trying to look at the world from the other person's point of view. And it may not be a point of view that you share. And I think you said earlier in one of your comments that what you've learned is taking ego out of the equation. And I take that to mean assuming that you're the one who knows the answer or who has the answer. I think when we don't have empathy and we're trying to design or are part of a group designing solutions, we tend to act in a way that indicates that we know the solution to the problem. And so I basically think that there could be reasons why we get a blind spot, and there isn't enough empathy for the other person's point of view. And it could be personal ambition. We want to drive towards a solution. It could be fear of going into areas that are unknown. and therefore you prefer to ignore them. Those are the kinds of things that I have experienced where, I tend to have a blind spot, and I might come up with a solution that's not really optimal for a particular circumstance. I don't know if that answers your question, but
yeah, it's the exercise.
Yes, thanks.
Thanks. So, Harsh, now if you'd like to interview Savita, ask her a couple questions. You have about 2 minutes.
Yeah. Hi, Sweta. So, what in your view is the importance of being empathetic?
I think it is the key to connecting with people, to communicating, and communication appears to be the biggest need in the world today and in our daily lives. I mean, we cannot exist as solipsistic individuals or little islands. So understanding that in itself makes a difference. Learning to listen makes a difference to how you communicate, how people perceive you, how people understand you and what you're saying. And that, I think that first connection, and I've come to this very late in my life, I have not realized, and I thought I was very right brain, but I was not in my training and my work. It has always been, as an academic, the emphasis has always been on rational, logical thought and really explaining rationally. But really, if you don't connect with, for example, students, if you do not know who that person is and what their needs are, it is almost guaranteed that you will fail to help them learn. So I think primarily, I mean, it is for me, it is the overriding skill or character strength that we need in today's world, in any world actually. But people were much, much better at it when they lived as part of communities and sort of embedded in communities. As we become more and more individualistic and the whole ego thing, I think we have lost that to a great extent.
You still have a minute to follow up.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think the nature of our work has changed over the years? Is it more community oriented, and is that where empathy has more of a place?
So let me say, at least in education, the nature of our work, the nature of the classroom has changed or should have changed. In India, it has not changed. We still have 19th century classrooms where the teacher stands in front and talks to an apathetic and disinterested audience. And there is no question of any understanding of the children of the teacher of the children. And the same all the way up through the hierarchy of educators and administrators. So yes, I think a lot has changed. There are, even as we have increased ways of connection and connectivity, I think the divides are getting greater and greater. But we can use, I really believe it is technology that is going to help us if it is used intelligently or effectively. It'll help us connect people and connect with people. So I have great hope.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that and asking those questions. So this, what we were doing here was just using traditional interviewing approach, just asking a question and oh, got my timer going here. So sorry, let me get rid of that. Stop. Okay, so this was traditional interviewing, and we asked we actually didn't ask the question of what gets in the way of being empathic, but we did talk about the nature of empathy. So what we want to go now is into another activity, with design. They have a whole series of different ways of doing interviews more deeply. So the one way, and here's what we want to look at, is the 5 whys. And this is like really an amazing process that I found. So this is like, if you ask someone, what gets in the way of being empathic, and then they say, oh, I don't have enough time to be empathic. And it's like, I'm really stressed. I just have to get the work done. And you say, well, why is that important so to get the work done? And they say, well, I'm really financially stressed and I feel really anxious and nervous. I've got to make money. So, well, why do you got to make money? Well, because I'm worried about my survival. Well, why are you interested in your survival? It's like, so you just keep digging why, and you really get down to the deeper kind of deeper needs and deeper essences of somebody's personality. So, and I found this an amazing process to really get to the deep, kind of almost like a deep emotional essence of what's going on for people. Another way is to get out of the vocabulary and the words, and that is to draw. Say, well, tell me about the story of when you experienced empathy, and do a little drawing of the experience, or what did the feeling of empathy feel like, and then have them do a drawing, or even a metaphor. I've done interviews at UC Berkeley. I taught a workshop there on empathy, and I had all the students do metaphors of empathy. So they all got a piece of paper and they drew a metaphor of what empathy is like. And one of them that I remember was someone standing in the sunshine. The sunshine. Empathy feels like sunshine on my skin. And so there's a whole bunch of different. They're really a lot of fun to get those drawings and metaphors. And then you could do a show me. So, show me what empathy looks like, or, a situation, kind of role play it. And then, again, another approach would be to ask, well, what's the story? Tell an actual situation. And that was actually I think Lulu had asked that, or Lulu had told a story. And so it's really asking those stories instead of getting like some kind of analysis. So those are kind of deeper ways of doing interviews. And another way that I'll mention that's not mentioned here and that I do a lot of is empathic listening. So I'll ask someone, why is empathy important to you? And they'll say, well, it really is the way that I connect more deeply with people. And I'll say, and then you can reflect what you're hearing. So I'm hearing that you really connect more deeply with people with that. Is that right? And they'll say, yeah, that's right. I connect more deeply, and it just has a really warm feeling in my body. And then I'll reflect that. So you're really feeling a warmth in your body. And the act of reflecting back what someone has said kind of creates a space. They feel like they've been heard, and it almost like opens a door, and they go deeper and deeper into their experience. So that's a bonus technique here. So what we want to do now is create a research plan, and let's see, let me look where we are here. And let's see, so we want to do the research plan and our design challenge. We want to go into our mural. If you open the mural, and here's the link. I'm putting the link in for our mural. Oh, is that, there might have missed a spot for another round. Okay, sorry. I missed a round here. Let me, 25. So I think we're going to want to actually try this out. Now let's try a few of these techniques that we would like to use in design. So we've got the 5 whys, the draw, show me, and tell a story. So we're going to do another round with each other, just a 2-minute round, and actually try to use one of these techniques. It might be a little hard because we're online. So we could start again with Lulu interviewing someone. We could maybe choose someone else. Oh, we missed Yvonne. So maybe you could start with Savita, interviewing her, and you're muted. And try using one of these techniques.
Yeah, well, let's use the 5 whys. I never used that. Okay, I will take the opportunity of using the question mentioned before, because I think it's a nice question. Would you care to tell me what do you think keeps people from getting enough empathic with each other?
So I think I'll talk about myself, because I guess that's what I should understand best. What gets in the way of my being empathic is not being familiar with either the other person or the person's context, or being in a very formal context. What the other thing that really gets in, let me try this again, because it is my mindset very often. It is my insecurity and the feeling that I will not be able to communicate with this other person what I need to say. So it may be when I'm doing a presentation or giving a talk or even talking to someone about a problem. That is when, and when they are, especially when it is people who are very different from me at my world.
Okay, I'm gonna change the method. I don't like the 5 whys in this case.
Okay.
So I understand that what I'm hearing from you is that you think sometimes you're not able to be empathic enough because you get kind of stuck in your own mindsets, because this is what you have the closest, and you don't have the knowledge about what others think and feel regarding those particular issues where you should make a decision.
Yes, that's
Is
right.
that right?
Yes, I think that's right. That I think you've said it very well. So I don't know that I want to critique either.
You can also say at that point when you do the reflection, is there more? So you kind of offer, is there more? And that kind of opens the door as well.
Yeah, is there more?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are solutions to this, but I don't know if we want to get into solutions just now. But I think making that effort to rise above your own insecurities and look at what is my mindset now? What am I currently? What is the filter through which I'm seeing this person? And could it be that there's a problem with that filter? And how could I do it differently? That might be, how might I approach this differently? That might be the filter. I have a very good story, if you want to hear a story. Do we have time for a little?
Tell me a story.
I'll tell you a story. So very long ago, I feels like this was 2005 when we started with the street children. I had actually never even thought about street children or about the beggars in the streets, not really consciously. And as part of this group of people, I was taken out to meet some kids in Delhi. And really, because this person, he was a young student, but he'd been a volunteer in the field. I belong to an NGO, and he's, because of the high level of trust he had with these kids, they came and talked. Now, normally they wouldn't even have come to talk, but in that little circle, sitting on the mud, on the ground, in this very arid field, in Delhi, now this is a terribly poor urban center, there were these little girls, 2 girls there, who were about 10 or 11, and they sat with their heads covered with a scarf, because, you know, the scarf might be part of the outfit, and sort of the front of the face covered, and they had something in their hands below the scarf, below their face, below their mouth and nose, and I couldn't see what it was, but they kept quiet, they kept their eyes down. And so later on, I asked the facilitator, the person who'd taken me out there, so what were those girls doing? And he said, well, they were sniffing thinner, you know, that paper, liquid paper thinner, whatever. And he said, well, these girls are on the streets. They're 10 or 11 years old. They're used to a lot of sexual abuse. They're very unsafe in this environment, sleep on the streets. And the only way they can deal with this reality is to sniff something. My daughter was that age at that point, and this was ages ago, but it changed my world. I had, suddenly there were these little girls. I still can't talk about it without, getting really worked up, because what can we do to change this world for them? Anyway, that's my story.
Mm. Okay, thank you for sharing that and for asking those questions, Lulu. So,
Thank you.
Sveta, would you interview Harsh using one of these methods?
Yeah, actually, I like the story. So tell me a story, Harsh. Tell me a story of either when empathy was a real need and you couldn't muster it, or when you really felt it worked to connect with someone.
Yeah, so I think, again, I'll tell you a story. Essentially, I was caught in the middle of a situation where there were two people, a mother and a daughter, and the daughter would not speak to the mother at all, and the mother was getting very upset, really upset about it. And I could see the mother's pain, and I, took her side against the daughter. But it was much later that I realized how much her daughter had been hurting, and that we had just been blind to the situation just because we expected certain actions in the family that that was the way to be with other people, that we could not see the daughter's pain, and that's something that I truly regret. But I think empathy was required in that situation where I really needed to understand the other side as well, and then I could have been more effective in bringing them together.
Do you still have time for a follow-up, Sveta? And you're muted.
Yes, sorry, I was muted. I think I'm good. I think we should move on.
Okay, great. Okay, Harsh, then if you would interview Yvonne using one of these new techniques.
Yeah, okay. So hi, Yvonne.
Hello.
What gets in the way of you being empathetic?
Sorry, could you repeat your question?
Yeah. So can you think of a situation where you were not empathetic, and what actually got in your way?
Yes, I can. When I was growing up, I have a brother and a sister. I'm the middle kid. When I was growing up, I really enjoyed school, but my brother, he struggled a lot with it. So when he needed help, or where he had bad grades, I just wouldn't understand, and I think I put a lot of pressure on him, trying to get him achieve the same results that I was getting, and it's because I just enjoyed school, and it was like a personal choice, and for him it was really hard. So I didn't understand, or I didn't spend the time trying to understand what was it about school that he didn't enjoy, and it was after years that I understood that it was not school itself. It was that he's actually really smart. So he felt school was boring, and the techniques that the school, like very traditional school, the way they were teaching, those were not attractive enough for him, and he was always feeling bored at school. So school for him was not a challenge, while for me it was. And I was always making comparisons of, like, I have good grades, you don't, you should do your homework, you should do this, you should do that. So I think I made assumptions and I judged him without fully understanding what was it about his school experience that was challenging for him.
So that's so common among families. Now, I don't know where to take it from there. Facilitators, any guidance?
Sorry, we didn't hear you. You broke up.
I said she answered my question well, and I don't really know where to take it from here.
Okay, then we'll move on. Yvonne, would you interview Lulu?
Sure. Sorry, my internet died a little bit ago, so we can choose from any of these methods we have here?
Yeah, you can use any of these other methods.
So, sorry, I just have a technical question. Like, for example, if we use Draw It or Show Me, how would we do that virtually?
That's going to be a little hard. So
okay,
I have to use like the 5 Whys, storytelling, or empathic listening. So.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to go with the flow and choose Tell a Story. I think we learn a lot from that. Lulu, could you share with me a moment in your life where you felt you were being very empathetic?
Well, yeah, I'm the girl in the story with the mother, I'm the girl that's being that kind of still refuses being as empathic as she should be, because she's suffering. And yeah, I'm just talking about myself at third person. Yeah, because I'm suffering, and why I'm not being empathic enough is because I need time to heal. I need time to have a distance, to allow myself a distance, so I could rebuild myself and rebuild my empathic willingness, I guess. And it's like you've heard before, yes, the mothers suffer a lot, but I try not to be aggressive. I try to manifest my empathy as as less harmful as possible. But yeah, and I don't know if I can, or if there is anything more to say. For me, it's simple. Sometimes, yes, you're not empathic enough, like it says on the slideshow, because you don't have enough time, but not necessarily because of stress. You don't have enough time to put yourself together.
Yeah.
I guess. This is being recorded, right? I can send the link to my mom, right?
Yeah, that's right.
But she would appreciate it.
I wonder if we can also ask our facilitators these questions. I think it'd be nice to hear from you guys.
Okay, you can feel free to ask one of us.
Okay.
Then great.
Okay, so let me start with Gabriela, and I really hope you can your connection works. So Gabriela, give us an instance. It helps us understand you better. So give us an instance of the need for empathy working or not working in your experience? Gabriela, are you there?
Mm.
Okay. Well,
of journalism schools, we are not taught and we are used to going into an interview just looking for answers or just looking for a headline, and the point of the whole interview itself is to walk out with fewer questions than you had to begin with. And after I started working with different kinds of people and I started being exposed to on a more humane level that at first I couldn't explain. And last year, one of our mentors told us something that really stuck with me, and I still think about it ever since. He told me when you're working and you're human-centered in any line of work, especially in yours, you have to be willing to walk out on news, on scoop, to protect the dignity of the person that's in front of you. And I realized that empathy was not just something that was driving this industry, so to say, to the ground right now, because we are very irresponsible with what we report. We are very responsible and very I don't know what the proper word for this would be, but we always kind of seek the same people to interview, and that's what feels comfortable for us. And empathy, I think empathy is key. And the good thing for me, I think, is that empathy was there. I just hadn't really put it to good use or allowed me to be involved in an empathetic environment, so to say.
Thank you.
Well,
go ahead.
I forgot one very important thing, that also from the academic background, as a researcher, I think that we used to hide, at least from the education that I had a few years ago, we used to hide behind the, and I would say that it was an excuse of being objective and being neutral. And based on that, we weren't being empathetic. It's just, oh no, it's just that empathy makes you vulnerable and makes you. Yeah, you can be objective, but that doesn't mean you can't be human and you can't connect with people's transcript conversation. You know.
I think that was brilliant, but the problem is you went in and out, and I think we would benefit a lot if you wrote down that at some point, just that observation, because it is very useful for all of us as we go into interviews, but that's just a thought. Thank you. I wonder if somebody else would like to ask the other facilitators?
Yes, perhaps Harsh, would you be willing to interview either Kevin or I?
Yeah, I'd like to ask you, Edwin, since you've done this for so long. What is empathy to you? I mean, and how does it fit in this human-centered design methodology?
Yeah, for empathy for me is it's a way of connecting, for people to connect. And so a story that comes up around that illustrates that is my family is very conservative and I'm more progressive, and we used to have a lot of conflicts in my family, and we had kind of a generation gap, and as I've learned more and more about empathy, I've been able to listen more and create, I think, a better connection with my family, and also become better at mediating conflict. And so when people are very far apart, to bring them together with empathy. And kind of a breakthrough that happened in my family was, it was Christmas, and my sister-in-law and mother got into an argument about where the children had got into, the little kids had gotten into some gifts, and my sister-in-law was really mad at my mother. Let me actually share my screen here. My sister-in-law was mad at my mother, and she yelled at my mother, and then my mother said, "Don't talk to me that way." And it's turned into this whole big argument. It looked like the whole Christmas Eve was going to blow up with this conflict. You know, I'd never seen them so angry with each other. And so I use this empathic listening, this approach that I'd mentioned as one of the interviewing techniques. So I said to my sister-in-law, I started reflecting back what it was she was saying, and this was really nerve-wracking because you're in the middle of all these emotions and anger, and the step into that with empathy is not easy, I've found. It's very scary, actually. So it's my sister-in-law, I said, "Oh, so I'm hearing you're really angry because the kids got into the gifts." Is that, "Yes, that's right, and I don't like what this," and I said, "Oh, you don't like this and that." And so I listened to her until she felt, I could see she felt heard. And then I went to my mother and I said, "Well, do you have anything to say?" And she said, "Yeah, she's not supposed to, she shouldn't talk to me that way." And I said, "So you're saying she shouldn't talk to you that way?" So all I did was reflect and empathize with what she was saying. And then I went back to my sister-in-law and did the same thing, and new things came up. And then, so I went back and forth empathizing with both of them for almost like 15, 20 minutes. And then they started calming down, you know, because somebody was hearing them, right? In conflict, people don't empathize with each other. They have big barriers put up. So I said, "Would you now be willing to listen to the other person and just let them know what you heard them say? And then you'll have your chance. Once they feel heard, you'll have your chance to share as well." And so then one started talking, and maybe like my sister-in-law started sharing, and my mother, instead of reflecting back, she tried to respond. I said, no, just reflect back what you're hearing. And then she did it, and then we went back and forth. And it was quite amazing because the whole family in that conflict, they'd all gone to the edge of the room. They'd all kind of like disappeared into the corners. And then when this conversation, this empathy was going on, they all started coming back in, and it actually turned into a family empathy circle. So it's like, then I got the whole family, I was kind of like getting the whole family to do this empathic listening, you know, with each other. Kind of one person would share, the other one would share what their understanding was until that speaker felt heard, and then the listener would speak to someone in the circle, and so we kept going. And then what happened is we kept going deeper into the issues, and then the issue that really came up was my sister-in-law felt she wasn't really accepted in the family because she comes from a poor Russian background. My family is more well-to-do, and she said, "I don't feel accepted," and my father got up and said, "I don't care about money, you know, it's like, I was a poor refugee when I came to America. You know, you know, what's important is you've given me these wonderful grandchildren, and you've really contributed to the family." And they both got up and had a big hug in the middle of the room. It was really quite touching, almost in tears, you know, around just retelling the story. And then we kept going, and then the same thing happened with my mother, you know, and her. They kind of got up and hugged. And the scene kind of ends with my sister-in-law and my mother sitting on the sofa, kind of arm in arm, kind of holding hands, kind of snuggled up with each other in this big, soft, cushy sofa. So for me, that's really the power of empathy, you know, beyond design. You know, design gets you down to those deeper issues. Like the real issue was not where the gifts were kept. You know, it was not who got into the gifts and who was responsible. The real issue in this conflict was a sense of belonging. Do I belong in this family? And that's, you know, what you got to do is get down. The empathy is what gets you down to that core issue. So the design challenge in the family would be, how do we make everyone feel like they belong? So that's, I went kind of overboard there, but I love telling that story.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you.
Yvonne, would you like to interview Kevin?
Sure. First of all, that was like a great story. It's, just gonna say like a quick comment. Like, while you were telling your story, I could totally see how, like, at least in theory, you were applying the why method and peeling back the onion. So that was good. Kevin, in your current job, like being a middle school teacher, how challenging is to have empathy with these kids that are growing up and change their mind every day?
Well, that's a great question. I would say that first of all, I have the luxury of knowing these particular students, almost all of them, since they were in kindergarten. I taught in the district for 12 years before this in K-4, so almost all of these students I have a history with. And so I know their families, I know their siblings, I know them, they know me. One of the, I always tell people, being a specials teacher, which is, in, you know, when you see every kid in the school, is the closest thing to being a rock star, especially when you live in the town where you teach, because the kids see you outside of school, they hang out of car windows, they scream and yell, and it's just a wonderful thing. And I would say I have great empathy for the kids in all grades except 8th grade. 8th grade is a very difficult grade for me to process. There are some amazing students and amazing young adults there, a core group of individuals whom we've taken to conferences to present, and had just, they're mature, and they're kind and polite, and they're friendly, and they're thoughtful and intelligent. And then there's the rest of them that are just too cool for school, and they need to go visit an inner city school for a couple of weeks and come back with a little humility, because they are, I don't know how to reach them. I honestly don't, and it's probably the thing that's bothering me the most about what we're currently doing, because this project, we're working towards capstones in which the kids are going to have real empathy for some folks that, in the 8th graders' case, are going to be designing hopefully 3D prosthetic hands for. And I'm hoping and fairly confident when they see the real people associated with their projects that they will rise to the occasion. But right now, they're just playing school, and I'm not sure how to reach them. I haven't been able to get any insight from the teachers who teach them every day, and it's I'm stuck, is what it amounts to. So everybody 5, 6, and 7 is great. I consider that I'm emotionally and mentally 11 years old, so I kind of fit right in with them mindset-wise. But the 8th graders are just, they're from a different planet, and I'm still trying to figure them out. So I don't really have a good answer there.
Thank you.
And if anybody else has insights into the adolescent mind, please enlighten me.
Okay, well, thanks. Thanks, Sveta, for suggesting that. That was really great to get interviewed.
Yes, it was. Great idea.
So we want to next create a research plan within the regular workshop. There's usually more people, and you have to form teams. So we already have a team here, so we don't need to do that part. And what we want to do is create a plan for our research. And what we can do is we can open the mural, and I just put I don't know if you're in the mural, but you can, I just put the link in on the side here. It's where you entered your description, your introduction, and we want everyone to come into that mural. And I see Kevin's there, Lulu's there, and Harsh is there. I don't know if Yvonne, oh, there you are, Sevilla, see you. I'm in, okay. I don't see you listed there, but okay, so here we have, if you scroll down, you can see plan your research. It says page 28. That's the page that that is on. And we have here, so you break up in teams, use your plan your research worksheet to identify who might you talk with, where you might go, what questions you might ask, and you can practice introducing yourself and asking questions, and we've done that part. So you can see that it says create a list of interview questions, and if you can zoom in, let me bring this page up here and share that. Where's our, there we go. So you can see we have here, work with your design team to identify potential people you want to talk to. And want to start with, you can go in and click on any one of these and just start jotting down some questions. We want to get a list of questions that you want to ask your interviewees. And if you want to just go ahead and click in there, and you could say, for example, you know, what does empathy and you can either use one of these. You can also duplicate, you know, blank one. So just you can just clicking on any of these, you can go in and just type in some questions. So we want to first get maybe 10 questions that you can take with you.
Edwin, I'm really liking this app. This is really fun.
Oh, good. So we have, what is your best experience with empathy? What would being empathic improve life for you and those around you? And I can also mention that this is these text boxes. If you go to the left, you can create a text box just by dragging and dropping it over. We have another question. Have you experienced a need for empathy in your life? Can you give me an example? And remember, the framing of our question is, how might we develop learners' empathy? So we're thinking in terms of how are we actually developing, fostering, teaching empathy for people.
I have a question, Edwin. And I think we kind of raised it last time, but so there are two things. One is the brainstorming and the ideas for how will we teach empathy would be a different stage from this one, where we are trying to understand the need for empathy. Why, I mean, it might be that we need to understand people's mindsets, closed mindsets, in order to be able to. And how do we get to that? But because just asking them about empathy presumes that they are thinking about empathy or know about empathy. But suppose, for example, when we look at a set of students in our classrooms, the middle class students that I talk about, it's appalling, their concern, their they're completely oblivious to the need for empathy.
Mm-hmm.
So what is the question you need to ask them to identify that need even? And I think this is where we need to put our heads together to get that, because the empathy questions are easier than these questions, which don't directly mention empathy. I don't know if I'm making myself clear.
I think I try to anticipate that by asking, how do you feel when you are not receiving enough empathy from your peers? Because once you realize that you yourself have that particular need, and that sometimes that need is not satisfied, then you are able to imagine at least how other person could feel when he or she is lacking this empathy from yourself. Do you agree with this? At least
I think that's a great question. I think we need to put that in about when you do. Oh, is it there? Sorry, I can't see it. 1 minute. I'll look more carefully. Okay.
I just put it. It's a new one.
Yeah, it's up to the four of you to kind of plan this. So dialogue among yourselves about how you want to, what questions you want to ask and problems that you have. You guys are the team.
But who are the learners here? What learners are we talking about? It's just generic learner?
So in my case, I think we will, in our various contexts, have specific learners. In my case, it is students and teachers. In both cases, it is people from the more privileged sections of society who have had little experience with people from less advantaged sections of society, and yet they live in that same world. So how do you build their awareness? And that's my learner.
Right. So the lack of empathy would be very specific to a particular situation or a particular context, would it not? And then, so for instance, when we think of taking students to introduce them to the circumstances of poor mothers, right? And they're afraid to go there and talk and learn about their situation. That's very specific. And how would you teach them empathy? That would really depend on that particular scenario. Could we ask generic questions like, what does empathy mean to you? And what is your best experience with empathy of those students?
So no, I would think that that question would not get me good results. I think I would need to ask them the kind of question that, who was it, Yvonne or Lulu, who raised that question about how do you feel when you're not receiving enough empathy? And I would take empathy out of there and say, so how do you feel, or create situations where, and ask them to respond to those situations, like how do you feel when someone does not understand you? Can you give me an example of that? Or tell me when you felt really bad about how someone has spoken to you. And what do you think that was about? And push on that one with the 5 whys, perhaps. And just try and help them to get to the place where they identify empathy as a need.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I like that approach as well, because empathy is a concept at the end of the day. So it's like if someone asks you, like, what do you think about freedom or love? it's not the same as you see it in your day-to-day, and maybe identify some behaviors and some particular experiences that might be helpful.
So then how do we formulate those questions? You've made a start, Yvonne, with, but let's go deeper and see what are the more real questions for those contexts, or for Kevin's nightmare 8th graders. I mean, how do we reach them? And Kevin, actually, I would really like the facilitators also to jump in with questions and ideas, because we're all new to this, right? Or we're going to pretend we're new to this. And yeah, so let's hear from all of you.
So I like that question. You know, can you think of a situation where you felt you were not understood? You know, to start there.
So to give a little context, we're basically planning the research now, and then at the end of this session, in about 20 minutes, we'll end, and then during the week you'll be going out and doing interviews, gathering interviews using this framework of what is the questions you want to ask, who do you want to interview. So when considering who to talk to and learn from, seek out the voice of extremes as well as mainstream users. Where do you want to go? Do you want to interview family members? Do you want to go to a prison? Think of where you might go, and how might you observe fresh perspectives. Do you want to go into your classroom? And then the other area you want to do is what are you curious to learn? What are the kind of the aspects of empathy that you'd like to learn? And you can jot down. I already heard some questions of, like, you know, who and where, and it's kind of the context. So we want to fill in this area here of who you want to interview. And I suppose that all of us can actually do some interviews, the facilitators as well. So we'll all be going. I think it would be good to write it up in a Google Doc. So we have a shared Google Doc where you take an interview. Unfortunately, we won't be able to go in teams unless you want to form a team and interview someone online. We could interview each other online, for that matter, and do it in teams. That's one thing. As well as invite someone else on a Google Hangout and interview them together. So kind of the sky's the limit of how we all want to approach this.
So I think one of the things that's, given that there are only 20 minutes, I think your idea of a Google Doc is a very good idea, but let's figure out then how we can do that, because I think we've gotten on the track with the questions. We need to come up with more questions and better questions, and we will as we think and dialogue virtually, I mean, or in writing. But so we probably need to give ourselves a little more time somehow to do this. And
Oh, you just got muted.
oops, sorry, I don't want to hog this. So I'm merely saying let's quickly define the rest of the process, because how we'll go about it, because you're going to run out of your 20 minutes very soon.
So who do you want to interview? Oh, Lulu, you had something to say?
Yeah, I think that to complete the questions, it's vital to define who we want to interview, because when talking about kids, you have different grades and they have different understanding. And there are people that that can't reach kids, so they would make a lot of interviews with kids. So maybe they'll go with a higher level, like for high school. And for high school, you should put different the questions in a different light, so it should be very, very well defined, the target public, I think.
Okay, say kids, high school. Who does everybody want to interview? Lulu, who would you like to interview?
I'm thinking on it.
Well, I'm certainly going to interview some 8th graders. It's terrifying conceptually. I mean, literally, the disengaged ones are just going to, like, laugh me out of the room. So I'd like to see why the 5 whys, but I'm afraid they'll just be too annoyed and like leave.
Kevin, maybe we should come and interview your kids.
That's actually not a bad idea, because
I mean, we're in Princeton. No, but that's just a thought. That's a.
That's a wonderful idea. At a minimum, Princeton's only 2 hours, a little over an hour and a half away, but we could easily set something up electronically.
Okay, well, let's think about that and
let's
see.
think about that. That would be terrific.
That would be amazing.
Gabby, did you have something?
I have access to a roster of. Oh, sorry. Yeah, that. If you're interested in millennials, also teenagers, I have access to a very interesting roster that I've been working private school. Half Costa Rican, half German private.
Okay, you're breaking up there, but I think we got it. Millennials and teenagers, you have a roster of them.
I'd like to add, I would like to talk to a couple of experts, people who have dealt in this sector for a long time and really believe, because they have worked with many different kinds of people, believe that there is an urgent need for empathy. So I really would like to look at talk to some of those people too. And the other thing with millennials is we recently had a workshop with a few kids who actually have reached the place we want other kids to reach. They have a real social interest in social justice, and they have a real conscience, and they're trying to. So these are all college students, and maybe one or two of them might be good for me to interview directly. And maybe one or two of you could join. I mean, we could set one or two. Do you think we have enough time in the 1 week is the question. Kids are busy.
Well, we could have, if everyone did like 3 interviews, that seems, how would something like that be? Everybody's kind of responsible.
If we divide the roles.
So you're kind of breaking up there. Oh, you wanted to define roles?
Okay, I would like to interview artists to see if there's a difference. Maybe, I mean, it should be a longer process, but to research if art really is able to foster empathy in people, or if they're like 2 separate processes, that you're being an artist and in real life actually you're not becoming more empathic, because there's this discussion on how art affects people.
I'd like to interview Kevin about teaching and empathy in teaching. So maybe if someone would like to pair up with me to do the transcription. That's the hard part. Ideally, it's nice to have one person interviewing and then one person doing transcription. So maybe we can line up an interview with you about what's the problems with and challenges in terms of empathy in the classroom, and how do you teach it? So that would. Harsh, do you have any?
No, but I could partner with you on that interview with Kevin.
Okay.
And I can also offer.
I could join you for that one.
So I'm going to request someone join me too, if we can set it up, because this is now with Indian participants. So we'll have to figure that out. But yeah, I would like to have a team member join me, please.
I could join you.
Okay, great. Okay, is that Yvonne? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So we should stay in touch and make this happen. We really only have 5 days, am I right?
7, right? We're next Saturday, so we have one full week.
Yeah, okay.
And I see Gabriela said she could join too, and she's interested in a therapist. I'd like to have an expert interview with her as well. So it sounds like teaming up with Gabby for doing an interview of a therapist.
Should we post our scheduled interviews online so that anybody who wants to join can join? Would that make sense? Is that a good?
That works.
Here's a good idea.
Sorry, what was that, Yvonne?
No, I was just saying that was a good idea.
Just down at the bottom of the page is a link for a Google Doc, so that can be our shared Google Doc for placing interviews. If you click on that, it'll open up a shared Google Doc, and we can place all the interviews there. So yeah, write down anywhere you'd like to interview here, any others, and what is everyone curious to learn? Maybe we could go around. Lulu, what would you like to learn?
Yeah, I think I already wrote it at where. How art affects empathy learning, or empathy development within self and within others.
I think I want to learn how people get beyond closed mindsets. What makes them open up, open to new experiences, new people, different people, and what prevents them from it.
You can write those in. Harsh, do you have some? You can go ahead and write them in, or Yvonne?
I'm still thinking a little bit about it, but I think I would like to take a little bit of a different approach and learn how your personal baggage or your family background history your empathy level.
So that's fascinating. Yeah, how your personal lens affects your questioning. That's fabulous.
That really means we need to interview a large variety of people. That would be great, Yvonne.
So you can go ahead and write those in there, right into the, you can see what the idea is to write all those questions, and you can keep doing it during the week too. Come back to this document and keep fleshing it out. Okay. Okay, so I think we have 5 minutes left. So we can keep working on this, and it looks like what if we schedule the different interviews by email, and then we have 1 week to do the research. That the interviews will be placed on this Google Doc. So we're going to need the interviews in the Google Doc because we'll be using those and cutting and pasting those into the next mural, into the next canvas. So it'll be important to be able to cut and paste and have it in a text format that's easy to work with. So let's see. So with that, let's get back to the slide deck and field research. There we go. So that's it. We've got our roles. Everyone's we have the different interviewees that we're going to do. So you've got Gabby, are you on a call? I was just seeing a little message there. Oh, so anyway, so that's it. So that's it. Field research, and now go and get inspired. So we've gone through up to the stage of beginning our research, and the idea is now is that in our teams, we're going to go out individually and in our groups, and we each do 3 interviews, put it on the Google Doc, and we come back in 1 week, and we'll share those and start working with that. So. Kevin, do you want to maybe close up for us? Close out?
Sure, absolutely. It's been a very fast 2 hours. It's gone really quickly, and I'm thrilled that we were able to get through most of our technological issues so that everybody could participate. It's a tremendous group of folks. Looking forward to continuing to work with you and bringing my kids into the equation to keep it real, so to speak, because there's plenty of them to involve. And I'm looking forward to what I can learn in the process and learning from everybody else. And hopefully everybody has had a similar experience and has found this useful. If there's anything about today that could have been better, we should share that as well, whether it's pace or having people speak up. I think the question or the suggestion to interview the facilitators was brilliant, so excellent, thanks for that. And we're all about each other here, so any suggestions about how to do things better for the next call, which will be great, and also substantially longer. I think we're planning, how long is the next one supposed to be? It's longer than this one, right, Edwin?
Yeah, I think we're at 5 hours, or how many, 5 or 6, so it's...
Yeah, so
right now.
We're going to have to do something. We need like bathroom breaks in there or stretch breaks or something, because I don't know how that's going to work for 6 hours, but we'll get through it. But I think it was a great conversation. I certainly enjoyed it. Edwin, what do you think?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it as well, and I want to thank everyone for taking part. That this is our first prototype of this class, so we're getting to run through it. We can all get really good at this, and we can all become presenters. So the idea is here, we've all gotten to run through it. Maybe we can do it a couple more times online, and then take the show, to our local communities. And so I'm really grateful for everyone taking part.
I'm already planning that, actually. I'm going to be talking about with a possible host for some workshops this summer. I'll be talking about it on Monday.
Oh, great. So are there people planning on presenting this process? I just saw...
Yes, so I'm sort of hoping that we can do this, Harsh and I can do this with my team in Delhi, with me there virtually and Harsh there in India on the ground, possibly. So we're going to figure that out. But yes, that's what we are planning for that's the task, right? All of us have to facilitate this.
Mm-hmm.
But so I think it's very important in our work. So I think we will be trying to do it.
And I just see here Gabby wrote, "Dear team, I would like to apologize for the inconvenience today. Not having access to my personal computer plus a surprisingly unreliable connection really affected the call and my input. Sorry for the distractions. I'd like to share a couple of thoughts during the week if that's okay with you. Would love to hear those, Gabby, and so glad you could still be with us even though we had these challenges. Great to have you take part." Anyone else would like to share?
I do want to thank the facilitators. I think this was a great job. Very well done. And I'll be in touch with my team member, Yvonne, by email.
Sure.
If that's fine, yeah.
Yeah, this has been very fun. Thank you very much for taking the time for preparing this. It's great meeting you guys.
Thanks.
Ditto.
Great.
Lulu, do you have any comments? You going to be doing any design?
I hope so. I'm not sure. I like to plan things for a lot of time, so I'm not really good with improvising stuff. I'd rather do it for like a long-term strategy. So it's not gonna be next week. But really do appreciate the input and your effort, Edwin, and Gavin for facilitating this and for making it happen. Thumbs up.
Okay, thank you. Harsh, do you have any final words?
No, no. Sorry, I came into this a little cold, but I think I'm getting the idea, and we'll participate in those interviews this week.
Okay, well, that's it. We're stopping the broadcast.